The quiet kid in my English class started calling me every night pretending we had a radio show, and when I told him to stop, he showed up at my house demanding his co-host get on the air. When I was 14, a boy named Wendell Pace sat behind me in 9th grade English and had not spoken a single word to anyone all year. Then one Tuesday, at exactly 10 p.m., my phone rang from an unknown number. I picked up because I was 14 and didn't know better. A voice on the other end said in a deep DJ voice, "Good evening, listeners. Welcome to the Pace Frequency. I'm your host, Wendell Pace, and tonight we have a very special guest." I sat up in bed. "Who is this?" I said. The voice kept going like he hadn't heard me. "Tonight's guest plays soccer, sits in row 3 of Mrs. Vinter's English class. Please welcome to the show." And then he said my full name. I knew exactly who it was. The boy behind me in English, the one who never talked. "Wendell?" I said. He kept going in the radio voice. "Tell our listeners, what is your favorite color?" I should have hung up. I was confused and a little curious, so I played along. I said blue. Wendell said, "Blue. The audience approves." He had segments. A song of the week. He sang himself badly. A fake weather report. A caller of the day. He made up entirely. After exactly 30 minutes, he said, "Tune in tomorrow," and hung up. I sat there staring at the wall. The next day at school, I waited until after English to talk to him. "Was that you last night?" I said in the hallway. Wendell stared at me like he had no idea what I meant. He shrugged and walked away. That night at 10 p.m., my phone rang again. Unknown number. It rang 5 times before I picked up. "Welcome back, listeners, to the Pace Frequency. Our co-host has joined us again. He plays soccer. He likes blue. Tell us, co-host, how was your day today?" I said, "Wendell, you have to stop." He talked right over me. "Our co-host is being shy tonight, folks, but we love him." He talked for 30 minutes. He used my name. He talked about things I had said in English class that day like he had been writing them down. I hung up halfway through. He called back twice. I blocked the number. The next day, he handed me a folded piece of paper. It was a co-host contract. It had a stage name he had picked for me, a broadcast schedule, a section labeled loyalty clause. "Wendell, no," I said. "I am not doing this." Wendell looked at me like I had kicked a puppy. "We have listeners," he whispered. He walked away. That night, the phone rang again from a different number, then a different one. He had figured out something with his mom's phone, his dad's phone, and a Google Voice number. I blocked all 3. Then a boy named Davin from my neighborhood, who I barely knew, started calling me at 10 p.m. The first time I picked up, Wendell's voice came through. "Welcome back, listeners." Davin had lent him his phone. I asked Davin about it the next day, and he just shrugged and said Wendell had given him $5. By the end of that first week, I was sleeping with my phone in a drawer across the room and still hearing it ring through the wood. Things got worse the second week. Wendell started telling people in English class that we had a radio show together. A girl named Iris asked me at lunch if it was true. I told her no. Wendell calls me every night and will not stop. Wendell was 3 tables away and somehow heard. He came over and said very loudly, "Don't kill the brand. We have momentum." Iris's eyes went huge. Wendell sat down at our table uninvited and said, "Tonight's episode is going to be a banger. I'm bringing back the weather segment." I got up and left the cafeteria. He called me that night anyway. He used personal information in the broadcast that he had clearly heard from other people. "Our co-host has a soccer game on Saturday at the field on Pine. Listeners, let's all show up and support him." The next day, I told my mom everything. She wanted to call his parents. I said no, because I thought that would make it worse. I was wrong. It would have made it better. That Saturday, Wendell was at my soccer game. He was standing on the sidelines holding a notebook, narrating my game out loud into his phone like he was broadcasting it. Parents were staring at him. My coach asked who he was. I had no good answer. After the game, I walked over and said, "Wendell, you have to leave me alone. I am not on your show. I have never been on your show. Stop calling me. Stop coming to my games." Wendell got really quiet. Then he said, "You signed the contract." "I did not sign anything," I said. "I handed it back to you in the hallway." "You read it," Wendell said. "Reading is agreeing." That night, Wendell rang my doorbell. I opened the front door, and there he was, holding his phone up to his mouth like a microphone. His eyes were wide and excited, like this was the best night of his life. Before I could even say a word, he started in with the DJ voice. "We're coming to you live tonight from our co-host's front porch. This is a Pace Frequency first." My whole body went cold. I grabbed the door and started pushing it shut, but before it closed, I heard my mom's footsteps behind me. Kirsten put her hand on my shoulder and looked past me at the porch. "Who's at the door?" she said. I tried to say nobody, but Wendell was faster. He straightened up like he was meeting the president and said, "Mrs. Evans, it's an honor. Your son is the best co-host in the business." Kirsten's face changed the second he said co-host. She knew. This was the boy I had told her about. Kirsten stepped forward, half in front of me, and her voice got that tone she uses when she means business. "It's late," she said. "You need to go home right now, and you need to stop calling my son. Do you understand me?" Wendell nodded politely, like she had just told him the library was closing. "I understand, ma'am," he said. "We'll keep future broadcasts to reasonable hours." Then he turned around and walked off into the dark like nothing had happened. Like reasonable hours was the only problem. Kirsten pulled me inside and locked the door. "We're calling his parents tonight." I didn't fight her this time. She tried looking up his family's number, but it was too late at night and nobody picked up. The next morning, Iris stopped me before first period. "Wendell told everyone in first period that you invited him to your house last night for a live episode," she said. I felt my face get hot, mad hot. "I did not invite Wendell anywhere," I said. "He showed up at my door. My mom told him to leave." Iris held up her hands like she believed me, but then she said, "He was really specific. He described your front porch." Then English came. Mrs. Vinter said we had a partner project. Before I could even look around, Wendell's voice cut through the class. "I'm with my co-host," he said, loud and clear, and pointed right at me. Mrs. Vinter just wrote our names down together and moved on. Wendell slid his desk up next to mine and whispered the whole period about episode 14, sliding me a note that said, "We interview Mrs. Vinter. I already wrote the questions." After class, I went up to Mrs. Vinter. "I can't be partners with Wendell," I said. "He's been harassing me. He calls me every night. He showed up at my house. I need a different partner." Her smile dropped. "I didn't know about that. I'll switch the partners." Then she added, "He seems like he just wants a friend. Maybe be patient with him." I wanted to scream. I had been patient. I just said, "I've been patient. It's not working." When I got home, Kirsten was already on the phone with the school office. They said they couldn't share parent contact info, privacy reasons. Kirsten kept pushing, but the office just said they'd pass along the concern. concern. We both knew what that meant, and nothing happened. 2 full days went by. No callback, but Wendell was not silent. He started following me through the hallways between classes, narrating out loud in the DJ voice. Our co-host heads to the water fountain. Classic hydration move. The listeners love it. Some people turned their heads. A couple guys from my math class started cracking up. He narrated me walking into the cafeteria. He narrated me putting my backpack down in English. He narrated me tying my shoe in the hallway like it was breaking news. Our co-host takes a knee. Is he stretching? Is he preparing for a big play? Stay tuned, listeners. Some kids thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. A few people started calling me co-host, like it was my actual name. I'd walk past a group and someone would go, "What's up, co-host?" And the whole group would laugh. It wasn't mean exactly, but it wasn't funny to me either. It was like Wendell had built this thing around me, and now everyone was standing outside it, watching and laughing, and I was stuck inside. On the second day, I turned around and looked right at him. "Wendell, stop. I'm not on your show. I never was." Wendell blinked. Then he straightened up, held his phone to his mouth, and said in the DJ voice loud enough for everyone, "He's doing a bit, folks. The reluctant co-host. It's his character. The people around us lost it." One kid clapped. I stood there, realizing I couldn't win. Anything I said, Wendell turned into part of the show. My anger was a segment. My frustration was a character choice. That afternoon at soccer practice, Coach Sullivan pulled me aside while the rest of the team was running drills. He had his arms crossed and he looked concerned. "That boy from the game Saturday. He emailed the team's parent group asking about the next game. Said he's the team's official broadcaster. Who is he?" I felt my stomach clench. I told Sullivan everything. The calls, the fake show, the contracts, the porch, the hallway narrating, all of it. Sullivan listened without interrupting. When I was done, he said, "I'll make sure he's not allowed at games. I'll let the other coaches know. But this isn't just a school thing anymore if he's showing up at your house. You might want to get your parents more involved." I told him my mom was trying. I ran drills for the next hour, but my head wasn't in it. I kept thinking about Wendell emailing a whole parent group like it was a normal thing to do. When I got home, I noticed something tucked into the front door. A manila envelope with my first name in Wendell's handwriting. Inside was a hand-drawn poster for the Pace Frequency, both our names in big block letters with little radio waves coming off them. Below it was a Season 2 schedule, written out week by week with episode titles and time slots. And at the bottom of the envelope was a handwritten note. "I've never had a co-host before. Please don't quit." I sat there holding that note for a long time. I didn't want to feel bad for Wendell. I really didn't. He had been making my life impossible for weeks. He called me every night. He showed up at my house. He followed me through hallways, narrating my life like I was a character in his world. But the poster wasn't a joke. The schedule wasn't thrown together. He had put hours into this, and that made it worse, not better, because it meant he really believed in it. He really thought we were building something together. I showed Kirsten the envelope. She looked through all of it without saying a word. When she got to the note, her face went hard. "I'm going to the school tomorrow in person." That night at 10 p.m., my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. It rang 7 times total. Then the text started. "Listeners are waiting. The show must go on." A minute later, "I made you a jingle. I want to play it for you." Then one more, just one word. "Please." I turned my phone off and put it in my desk drawer. I lay there staring at the ceiling. Part of me was so angry I couldn't sleep, but part of me kept going back to that note. I've never had a co-host before, and the word "please" sitting alone in that last text. I hated that I felt guilty. I hated that Wendell made it so hard to just be mad at him without also feeling like I was hurting someone who had nobody. But I was done being patient. Patient hadn't worked. Nice hadn't worked. The next morning, Kirsten drove to the school before first period. When I got home, she was sitting at the table with a cup of coffee, calmer than she had been in days. "I met with the counselor," she said. "I sat in that office for 45 minutes and told them everything. The counselor said she'd bring Wendell in and talk to him directly. She said she took it seriously." I felt something loosen in my chest, like I had been holding my breath for a month. That night at 10 p.m., my phone didn't ring. No calls, no texts, no DJ voice, nothing. I fell asleep before 11. The next day at school, Wendell sat behind me in English and didn't say a word. He didn't lean forward. He didn't slide a note across my desk. In the hallway, no narration. It was like the Pace Frequency had been unplugged. My shoulders came down from where they had been living near my ears. I sat with my best friend June at lunch. "My mom went to the school," I said. "He hasn't called me in 2 days." June nodded. That whole thing was getting weird. I told her I thought it was finally over. I actually believed that. I let myself think that for one more day. On the third day, I walked into the cafeteria at lunch, and I knew something was off before I even got my food. A small crowd, maybe 10 people, gathered around one table near the back. I scanned the edges of the crowd and saw Iris standing off to the side with her tray, looking right at me. Her face was doing something I couldn't figure out, like she was bracing herself, like she knew what I was about to see, and she was sorry I had to see it. I walked over. I got close enough to see past the people at the edges, and my whole body went tight. Wendell was sitting at the center of the table. He had a phone propped up against a water bottle like a microphone. His spiral notebook was open in front of him, covered in writing and little drawings, and he was talking in the full DJ voice, deep and smooth and loud enough that the whole back half of the cafeteria could hear it. He had segments. He was running through them one by one, checking them off in his notebook. He was pointing at people around the table and saying things like, "And now let's go to our caller." And they were playing along, asking fake questions, laughing, leaning in. And then I heard my name. Wendell was telling them about his co-host and how I played soccer and how I was shy on air but great off mic. He was building me into a character for a new audience. Then Wendell looked up and saw me standing there. His whole face changed. It lit up like a Christmas tree. He leaned toward the phone propped on the water bottle and said in the biggest DJ voice I'd ever heard him use, "Ladies and gentlemen, our co-host has arrived. Let's give him a round of applause." And the people at the table actually clapped. One guy near the end of the table grinned and said, "Dude, this is actually kind of funny." Wendell looked at me, and the expression on his face was the worst part. It wasn't the DJ persona. It was real. It was pure, desperate hope. "I kept the show going for you," Wendell said. His voice cracked a little, but he kept the smile. "I didn't quit. I just found more listeners. I didn't didn't sit down. I didn't say a single word. I turned around and walked away from that table as fast as I could without running. I pushed through the cafeteria doors and went straight down the hallway to the boys' bathroom. It was empty. I went into the last stall, locked the door, and stood there with my hands on my knees, breathing hard. I was so angry I could feel it in my teeth. I had told Wendell to stop more times than I could count. I had said it to his face. I had said it through blocked numbers. My mom had said it on our porch. The counselor had apparently said it in an office. None of it mattered. None of it got through. He just found a new way to keep going. But mixed in with the anger was the guilt. Because I knew Wendell had no one. I knew the show was the only thing that made him feel like he existed. And I knew that what I had to do next was going to take that away from him completely. But the guilt was losing. For the first time, really losing. Because I had done everything right. I had been patient and clear and polite and firm and loud, and it didn't matter. And now he was building a live audience and putting my name in their mouths. I couldn't live like that. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Kirsten. Mom, it's not over. It's worse. We need to talk to his parents directly. I hit send. When I got home that afternoon, Kirsten was already at the table with her phone in her hand. I called the school again, she said. This time she didn't ask nicely. She told them she wanted Wendell's parents' phone number, and if they wouldn't give it to her, she was going to the principal. And if the principal didn't help, she was going to the district office. They gave her the number. Kirsten called Wendell's parents that evening right after dinner. I sat across from her, picking at a spot on the placemat, listening to her side of it. She was calm. She used that voice she uses when she's trying really hard to be fair, even though she's upset. She explained everything from the beginning. The nightly calls, the different phone numbers, the fake contract, showing up at our front door after dark, the soccer game narrating, the hallway stuff at school, the cafeteria broadcast with a live audience. She laid it all out, one thing after another, steady and clear, like she was reading a list she had memorized. When she finished talking, there was a long silence. Then I heard a woman's voice on the other end, higher and softer, say something. Kirsten's face changed. She reached over and pressed the speaker button. The woman's voice filled the room. He told us he finally made a friend, she said. He said your son was his best friend. He's been so happy the last few weeks. Happier than we've seen him in years. I felt like all the air left the room. I just sat there. I didn't move. Kirsten closed her eyes for a second, then opened them and kept her voice gentle. She explained that I had asked Wendell to stop many times, that I had said it to his face, clearly, more than once, that Wendell hadn't respected any of those boundaries. The other end of the line went quiet again. Then the woman spoke, and she sounded so tired, like this was a conversation she had been having for years with different people about different situations. Wendell has a hard time understanding when people don't want to be around him. He doesn't pick up on it. We've been working on this with him since he was little. She said she would talk to Wendell. She said she was sorry. Then the call ended. Kirsten set the phone down on the table and looked at me. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just sat there staring at the table, replaying that woman's voice in my head. He told us he finally made a friend. Kirsten put her hand on my shoulder and squeezed. You did the right thing, she said. I nodded, but I didn't feel right. I didn't feel wrong either. I just felt heavy. The next day at school, Wendell wasn't there. His seat behind me in English was empty. The day after that, empty again. On the third day, Wendell was back, but he wasn't in his usual seat. He was sitting in the back corner of the room, in an empty desk pushed up against the wall, as far from me as he could get. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at anyone. He sat with his head down, his notebook closed on the desk in front of him, and he didn't move when Mrs. Vinter started the lesson. I could feel the silence from that corner. It was different from the silence before all of this started. That first silence was just a quiet boy being quiet. This silence had weight to it. It pressed against the back of my neck the whole class period. When the bell rang, I stood up and grabbed my stuff, and that's when I saw it. A folded piece of paper sitting on the corner of my desk. I didn't know when he had put it there. I unfolded it. In Wendell's careful handwriting, the same handwriting from the contracts and the posters and the season 2 schedule, it said, "Final episode. The pace frequency is off the air. Thank you for listening." Below the words, he had drawn a small radio tower with little curved lines coming off the top like signals going out into nothing. And at the bottom, in smaller letters, it said, "You were a good co-host, even though you didn't want to be. I'm sorry I didn't hear you when you said stop." I stood in the hallway holding that note, reading it twice, 3 times. I looked back through the classroom door. Wendell was still in the back corner, slowly putting his notebook into his bag, alone, not looking up. My chest got tight. I turned around and walked back into the classroom.